Okay, so then you're taking a piece of clay, and we're going to talk a lot about a thing called centering, which just means getting the clay into the center of the wheel head. So the first thing you want to do is throw it down pretty strong so it sticks, and it makes a vacuum with the aluminum, right? If you throw it down meekly, it might not stick very well, and then you go to work on it and it comes right off, right? And it's no good. Okay, so then we get the wheel going. All of these wheels have an on-off switch, right? Which is on your throttle side, as it were. Some of these wheels have two switches. One switch is an on-off switch. The other one is a go frontwards, neutral, don't do anything, and go backwards switch, right? So what they call a three-way switch. You want the wheel to go counterclockwise. In the western part of the world, we throw counterclockwise, and that's what you're going to learn. I got any lefties in here? Well, that simplifies things. Isn't that nice? Oh, surely Gladdy will be a lefty. Anyway, but we go counterclockwise. Always remember counterclockwise. If you have you won't be used to that right away, right? So if you're having a really hard time, maybe double check that. Make sure you're going the right direction. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about speed. The wheels are all different. Some of them can go faster than others. There's no reason for you to go all the way fast except for one of them that's in there that doesn't go very fast, right? It's not the kind of thing that will help you going fast. You should not go too fast or too slow. And each part of the process wants a different speed, right? So you'll get used to the throttle and like that. Anyway, but the fastest you want to go is when you're centering. Now you can see if I hold my hand with my hand, because if you just do it with one hand, you'll do this thing where you're, trying to go along with it. So have your hand with your hand and see how it's getting close, far, close, far, close, far, right? That means it's not centered. There are some things where you just can't really break the rules, and having your clay centered is one of those things. You just can't break the rules. Okay. So we can all see that this is not all in one place. I could carve out a spot where it's like not moving around, right? But instead, I'm going to make that happen. Okay, so my left hand, we're going to call this the big dumb wall. You're going to use this part of your hand mostly, right? Big dumb wall. I think of it as Jethro from the ancient television show The Beverly Hillbillies, because he was big and strong, but he wasn't very smart, right? So this one rides at 8 o'clock, okay? The elbow stays on top of your leg or slightly on the bottom part of the top muscle that's on your leg. You are going to use the core of your body, like this section right here, to make all of this happen. It's a weird leverage thing. I have had people that are very, very weak and very, very strong, and like everybody can do this. It's just a matter of finding the right spot. It's like jiu-jitsu or something. You just have to have the right leverage. Okay, so big dumb wall is very powerful. It can stop the clay. Okay, right hand is a hook and a cover. So these fingers here are kind of a hook, and this is kind of a cover. So two jobs. You always kind of pull this way toward the center, or bring them together in the center like that. You can just kind of visualize that coming together. All right? So here we go. I'm going to get the big dumb wall in there. I'm pulling the hook there, and you can see how that's not going back and forth anymore, right? Maybe a little bit. Okay, so you can see how the clay is fundamentally changed by my bearing down on that. Now, I'm reasonably strong, and I could just muscle this, but it's not muscle. It's like finesse, being exactly in the right part of the arc as it goes by, right? You can almost visualize with the big dumb wall taking the clay and pushing it toward like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock there, right? And with the hook and cover, you can collapse down the clay and pull it toward the big dumb wall. right? And if you get it from all sides, that's how you compress it and make it right in the middle there. Okay? Okay. So now a thing that will help you center, but after a while you don't have to do anymore, but some people do, whatever, is called coning up. So I'm going to take my hands and they're going to work oppositionally to push the clay upward as the clay goes around. And I will slowly raise my hands up to make this kind of a cone shape. As I pull it up, I start off with this part of my hand and this part of my hand so I can cut in down there pretty deep, right? So we get this thing there, and then we take it from the top and we go right into our big dumb wall cover and hook and just push it back into itself. Right? So that'll kind of loosen up the clay, and it'll get more surface area of the clay exposed to more water, which will also loosen it up, right? So what we're kind of looking for is a pretty uniform thing that's centered, right? So like if you're, what you're doing is you're looking across here to see if it's centered. Like this thing here, this edge, this is a machined piece of aluminum that is really, really, really round. Unless something really wails on it, it's not going to be uncentered. So you can kind of compare the two. Or some people like to, you know, kind of look all the way across to something that's more stationary over here and see if it's moving or not. But the easiest way, at least in the beginning, to see if something is centered is to grab your hand with your other hand, make a pointer finger, and get pretty close. And then you're looking for that close far thing. If it's jumping back and forth, it's not centered. Any questions so far? That looks like a no. So the center thing is non-negotiable. Okay? All right, so we're going to be making bowls. So the next thing we got to do is we got to make a hole in the middle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right hand. I'm really bad about that. So if I'm waving a hand around and saying it's the wrong one, please say something to me. I got my right hand, and that is going to go on the inside of my left hand, which brings up a great thing for you to know. If you go the reverse of that, this can hook and throw off your clay and kind of grab your arm in, right? But if it's just passing by like that, it's no problem. There's nothing to hook. It's really important to keep that in mind, okay? Okay, so we got that, and I'm in the proper sequence there. And now my right hand is going to go first, but my right thumb is going to go first, but my left thumb is going to be a pal and sort of have its back there. And we go downward until there is approximately, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of my hole to my wheel head. And how are you going to know that? Well, at first you're not. So what you do is you test it. That's why we have the needle tool. So the needle tool goes down into the dead center, push it all the way in, and then run your finger down the side of it until you hit the bottom. And there we go. It's about 3/4 of an inch, right? If you do this obsessively, you'll get a bunch of holes in there. That's not great, but it's a way that you can get started and start to get literal feel for that depth. Okay? So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to push away from me a little bit just to open up the clay a little and sort of start making a lens shape in the bottom. Sort of start making, a lens shape in the bottom. Okay? So all of these are preliminary things. There's a way to recover if the clay becomes uncentered from here, but much after this, not really. Okay? All right, now here's where the stuff is that looks good on TV, you know? From here on out is when we start to throw. And when I say the word throw, I mean, I could talk about where the word comes from for this and blah, blah, blah. But the point is that you're actually moving clay. Much like the threads of a screw, I'm going to make a little squeeze point there and carefully and slowly pull it up and out, right? We're making a bowl, so we need both up and out. The reason I start you guys out on bowls is because the clay kind of naturally wants to do that. Okay, so what I'm doing, and you two have to believe me on this, yeah, you two, is that I'm going to trap the clay in between my pointer finger, or my middle finger, and my ring finger, and my other finger is kind of bulged up around the sponge. But my left is on the inside, and my right is on the outside. And we're always over here at 4 o'clock. The reason we're over here at 4 o'clock is because if we're over here, we can hook. Just like I was talking about with overlapping hands. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to get all the way down to the wheel head. You can see it's clean all the way to the bottom. A lot of times, initially, people are scared to go all the way deep like that. And please go ahead and do that. And I'm going to make a little nook. Okay? So you can see that little dark nook underneath there. That's the clay that I'm going to carry up with this first pole. You can't see it because I got a swamp going in there. Well, you can kind of see it. There's a nook in there as well. Right? So you can just visualize. I'm going to carry that thing up and out like the threads on a screw. If you go too fast, you won't get all the clay. If you go too slow, you'll run out of water or have other problems. So I'm going up and out. Pretty uniform speed all the way, and then I go past the top. I'm still locked into the width that I was there. The thing that takes a while to get used to is that consciousness of knowing exactly where the inside hand and the outside hand is, right? And really locking into it and just carrying it up. Because you'll make little mistakes and you'll be like, oh, maybe I should go back. Don't go back. Just get in there and pull it up, right? Okay, so I sense that I still have some more clay there, so what I'm going to do is get another nook going. So here we are, we got another nook going, and we're going both up and out. Right? So we get to the top there, and we've got, you know, the sort of kind of classic, there's inside and there's outside of this thing, but it wants some more shape, right? But I'm pretty sure I got all the extra clay from that wall all the way down from the bottom here all the way to the top. Okay? Next thing, I'm going to grab the water out of this just to kind of get it out of the way and so I can see what I'm looking for. And it's time to switch tools. This will feel cruel when you have to go from the sponge to this because it's a whole nother thing, you know. It's a whole nother surface. I'm going to hold this tool with my finger in the eye there. I always think of it as a bird, you know. So the finger in the eye. And I'm going to use the tip pointed downward to take off a little rill of clay that's at the bottom. That will make it easier to pick up afterward. So we make that little rill underneath there. And then what I'm going to do is use this part of the curve at first, and as I work my way up, it'll follow up kind of the curve. Okay? Alright, so we're going from the outside and the inside. I'm pushing out a tiny bit, and I'm catching with the tool, and I'm working my way up, and you just saw the form change a bunch. Right? So it's a little lumpy yet, so I'm going to go back and smooth that out a little bit using the same thing exactly. Okay. So we got like a number 2 cereal bowl here or something, you know? Alright, another thing you want to get wrapped up before you take it off the wheel is the lip. You can see how I've got these kind of lines and stuff in it. I can go in there and kind of smooth some of that out. I don't really care what kind of things you do with the lip. Like you can do fancy stuff with it. But you want to keep your 2 hands working close together like that. Mostly this, my left pointer finger and my left thumb form kind of a goal around the clay. And then my right pointer finger can make shapes with it. This makes me very stable. Okay? Okay, so then I'm just going to take and get rid of some of the swamp on the inside there, and I'm ready to take it off. So we take this thing and we cut it off there, and we can kind of fool around for a little bit and do kind of nothing for a minute, clean some of the clay off my hands. And by now, it's sealed again. Right, so when you cut it, you want to get right in there and do it. Right, so I gotta cut it again. Cut it again. You dump the tool right away. Make 2 victory signs, kind of pointing upward. Lift and twist, and this goes on a shelf. Right, this goes on a shelf, and then before you leave in the day, you cover it with plastic so it doesn't dry out. Because we're gonna flip it over and trim the bottom. This does not need to be touched anymore. You will be tempted to touch and pet and smooth and stuff. Don't do it, because you can't make it smoother than it already is, basically, So you're going to make 20 bowls. So you definitely will have some that don't make it, and that's totally expected. I don't even start worrying until the first couple of weeks, So what you're going to learn on bowls are not just the aesthetics of bowls and the shapes of bowls, but how to do all of this, right? So that is the whole process. You guys should go start wedging up some clay, and then we'll get started. Yeah, I actually went up to Amherst and picked up a bunch, just so you guys can surely get started today.
That was really nice of you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I needed some other supplies too.
Did you get my email?
I did.
Okay, good.
Yep, just before we started.